Senator Portman.
Well, my colleague and friend Ken Conrad has said it so well. I would just add a couple of things. One, there's a certain time when you have a confluence of the political will in Congress and the tipping point on the debt and deficit. We've seen this in the past. Bob, you mentioned what happened back in late 90s, 2000, where we came together. We're at that point again. And the tipping point, again, Ken Conrad has just explained well. I would go a little further and say we're already there in terms of the impact on the economy. If you look at the interest rates that we're facing today, anybody listening or watching who is trying to get a mortgage right now or finance a car will tell you, 7-8% interest is a killer. And it is in part because of this fiscal crisis that we found ourselves in. I would remind us all that there are only 3 credit rating agencies, and all 3 of the credit rating agencies have said we're in trouble because of Washington's inability to get a handle on the debt and deficit. And they have specifically talked about Congress. Most recently, Fitch downgraded, but also Moody's has threatened to downgrade. And if we go through another government shutdown, which is not unlikely here in January, I believe that Moody's will also downgrade. And what does that mean? That just means higher interest rates for all of us, because we have to have higher interest rates to get people to buy our debt, which has been downgraded in terms of the full faith and credit behind it, and that raises rates for everything, including on the commercial side. So I think we're already there in the sense that the debt and deficit is affecting the lives of the people of North Dakota and Ohio and New Hampshire and all around the country. Second, I would say that back when you and I, Bob, were doing the fiscal wake-up tour, we had an opportunity to go around the country and talk specifically about what the consequences are. And Senator Conrad has stated it well in terms of the impact on Social Security recipients. And I think that's one that every academic and economist would agree with. But it's much broader than that. It really is our place in the world. It is what our adversaries are looking at very closely. Are we going to be able to dig ourselves out of this hole? Do we have a policy to do so? So this is time for another fiscal wake-up tour to explain that to the American people. I think probably a commission, although it would be looked at for policy recommendations, is equally important to explain the problem better to the American people in a way they can understand, in a way that they can appreciate. Because let's be honest, with low interest rates, we just kept spending and spending and spending, and it seemed like it wasn't affecting the economy much. Now with higher interest rates, it's very different. And we're spending so much more every year. In fact, we'll pay more in interest over the next several years, we're told, just interest on the debt, than our entire defense budget. So the comment made earlier that a former Joint Chiefs of Staff said that the number one threat to our national security is the rising debt. This impacts us directly in terms of our ability to spend money on our priorities if we don't have the money because we're paying more and more interest. So time for a fiscal wake-up tour. Just thinking here, Bob, as we talk about this, it probably makes sense for the commission to issue some, if it is a statutory commission and it's designed in the way we've talked about, to send a message to Congress and to the American people as to what the problem is first. But perhaps there could be in parallel a fiscal wake-up tour while the commission is doing its work. And that fiscal wake-up tour could once again wake people up from their slumber about this issue, because it does affect them. It does affect their family and certainly their future generations of their family. So I think we're there. I think we're at that tipping point. As a percent of GDP to go over 100% was always viewed to be a tipping point by economists. And I think we're at a political point where there does seem to be some bipartisan interest in taking this issue and really addressing it in a fair, objective way using an outside commission.